Hello everybody and welcome. This is Christine with Pattercrafts, and today I am here with a design team project for Scrapping for Less. Today I'm using collection 3 and I'm going to see how many cards I can make using the rest of the items from this mini collection. My goal was to get 4 cards and I ended up getting 5, so that was pretty exciting. Right now I'm just trimming down my pattern paper. I have recently been watching some One Sheet Wonder cards, and even though my pattern paper is 6 by 6 and not 12 by 12, I kind of wanted to use that same concept to try to see how many cards I could make. The other challenge with doing this as well is I am used to, or I prefer to have a piece of pattern paper that's going to be my entire front panel. Now, whether I trim that down a little bit to 4 by 5 1/4, or if I use the entire card base size 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, it's usually one sheet, and I can't do that with these cards. This first card is not necessarily a challenge because, as you can see, that top pattern paper is pretty much the entire card base. Added a little scrap at the bottom to fill it in, and I'm using this green cardstock from my stash it gives a nice border. So I'm kind of looking at my card bases that I have, both from the card kit and my stash, to find things that would be a nice complement to the pattern paper. So we're gonna go ahead and I put the large piece on first, but I don't really press it down because I want to get this small piece into place as well. And once that is into place where I think it's all straight and even, we're going to go ahead and press that down and add my focal point, which is the largest image from the stamp set. It is a circle image. It has a sentiment and these little flowers, and it has the little black border that kind of goes around it. So I stamped that out with some MFT Extreme Black ink, cut that out with a circle die, added that onto a mat with some blue cardstock that I used a circle mini scallop die for the mat. Now we're going to go ahead and add some sequins. I have the sequins in one of these tri-trays. They're from Beadalon. These can be found in the a la carte section of the Scrapping for Less website. And I'm also using this jewel picker. This thing is amazing. I've not used one before. You've probably seen many a times that I use some tweezers, and this little jewel picker is really amazing. I absolutely love it. I added those on with some multi-matte medium because it will really hold those sequins into place. I first tried using the little quickie glue pen, but there's just not enough glue that comes out to hold the sequins on to the card. So that will be card number 1. Now we're going to move on to card number 2. I swear card number 2, I just did everything like the really hard way. So I've grabbed my card base, and I know I need to use a few different pieces of pattern paper, but I'm so afraid that I'm not going to adhere this piece correctly. Now, probably from here, I could have added my washi tape and been done, but no, I'm going to take out my little Make Art Station, which is it's a really thin metal. It's magnetic. It comes with this ruler that's magnetic and these circle magnets. All right, I had to pull all this out. This is what made me feel better. So once I had all those pieces down, I went ahead and added some washi tape to hold them into place. And figuring out what I want to do with this piece, but I don't have to do anything with that at this moment. So what I did is I pulled this up. Now that it's got the washi on the front, I can work with this whole piece a little bit better. I'm going to trim that bottom so that I have the same kind of edge on the bottom as I do on the top. Add my adhesive and put the whole piece down on my card base. Then I'm going to go ahead and peel my washi tape up. Like I said, there's probably an easier way to do that, but not having that little crutch of the entire panel being the entire card front, a little scary for me to make sure everything is lined up evenly and properly, if that makes sense. So once I have my pieces all together, I was wondering if where I could put that circle image again. It's not going to fit nicely on here. So I die cut out these 3 pieces from the die that comes in the banana split portion of the card kit. I am pulling out some peeled paint distress ink and gathered twigs. We're going to go ahead and add some distress ink to those 3 leaf / vine pieces. Once I have the green all down, I'm going to grab that gathered twigs and just add a little bit of brown right to the edge. I thought it'd be nice to kind of bring in some brown from that brown pattern paper that we'll be using on the front. Using the green and the brown again on that little circular piece, which is going to be for my sentiment. This sentiment is found in that stamp set and it says, "Follow your dreams." So once I have all of this done, I've got to figure out how I want to add these leaf pieces. I found this, like once I had exactly how I wanted it to be done or how I wanted it to look on the card, I end up pulling it apart and then I was like, oh no, what did I do? I'm going to add a little tick to the top and bottom of this one so that I know where I want the tip of that to land and the bottom of that to land, so that will definitely help. Using this quickie glue stick for the piece. Now, this is perfect for this piece. However, I'm just adding little glue dots to each of the leaves, and it does require extra time to dry. So at some point when I pull off my acrylic block off the top, you're going to see it comes off, and that is because I did not give it enough time to fully dry. This quickie glue stick is great for these kinds of small pieces, but it's not necessarily the fastest to dry, and maybe because I don't generally use a lot of liquid glue, so maybe it actually does, but if I use it again in the future, I know I need to kind of give it an extra minute or 2 for that to dry completely before I lift up my acrylic block. So I didn't place that second one exactly the way I wanted it to, because I ended up putting that brown piece of paper on some foam tape. So what I'm doing is I took that 3rd vine piece and I cut it in half, and I'm adding a portion of it to the bottom and a portion of it to the top, and it tucks right under and no one will know it's 2 different pieces. So that is pretty much it for card number 2. And now we'll move on to card number 3. Card number 3, I'm grabbing another one of the larger pieces and trying to figure out which of the other pattern papers kind of goes best. It doesn't quite fill up everywhere I need it to be. So what I end up doing is adhering the still a nice size but longer piece of pattern paper. I'm going to adhere that to the entire side. I do bring it up just a little bit because I don't know if you can see, but the edge of that corner is bent. So I just wanted to make sure I trimmed that off. And then we're going to add this piece on to the top, but I'm going to trim it down a little bit. I tried to see if I liked some of the other pattern papers first, but I really was wanting to use this piece. So you saw me bring out a corner chomper for the edge of the or to the right side of that piece of paper. I haven't used that in forever, so that was interesting. Bringing in this green pattern paper to just give a little bit of a separation between the 2 patterns so you can see them a little bit better. And then again, I'm just going to trim off the top and bottom. Once that is all set, I'm going to bring in the large image from the stamp set again, basically doing what I did on card number 1 with the circle and the scallop circle dies. And then I decided instead of adding sequins to this card, I was going to add 3 of the buttons that come in this collection. So once I have those in place, we are going to call this card done. Moving on to the 4th card, I decided to cut this piece in half and add adhesive to the entire card front. I'll add 1 piece to the right and 1 piece to the left, and then I'm going to use this green piece right there in the center, so it doesn't even look like I didn't use a whole sheet of paper. This is great if you love to conserve your pattern paper too, so you don't have to use an entire piece to fill that entire panel if you don't want to, or if you just want to give it that look but you don't have enough, such as my case, you can cut it in half and add it like that. So now I have this square piece that I decided to put on the center of my card, kind of to look like a diamond shape, but it was a little bit big, so I'm trimming off just a little bit. Still a little big, so I'm going to bring it back in and trim just a little bit. I didn't really want it to touch the edge, but I wanted to fill out a decent amount of the card front. So once I have that done, I adhere that, and then I found this tiny scrap. We're going to put that right in the middle. And then from there, we are going to put the Follow Your Dreams sentiment just on a piece of white cardstock, and then I used the mini scalloped circle die to cut that out. Adding some sequins to the front of this card. Trying not to get too much glue on my jewel picker because I don't know if that will ruin it. This is the first time I'm really using a jewel picker. It's really amazing. I've always just kind of used some tweezers, and this is just game changing. I love it. So that is it for the 4 cards. Then I realized, hey, you know what? I still have enough pieces. I think I can squeeze out 1 more card. So I grabbed this square card. It's just a card base from my stash, and I add the first piece down. I loved that pattern paper, and I thought it was really pretty with this blue cardstock. Now I'm trying to figure out how to add the rest of these little scraps of pattern paper. So I do apologize for the few seconds of delay here where we're just kind of staring at this, because I'm really thinking hard, what am I going to do with this? And I start playing with all the little pieces. So I decide on this one here, so we're just going to trim it a little bit so we have that blue edge. This is also scary for me because I want to make sure that the border along the entire outside is even, and then it's the more pieces of pattern paper I use, the more stressful it is to make sure that that border is correct. It ends up being fine, but I do stress about it more than I probably should. So we're going to go ahead and finish finding out ways to fill up the space. Now, this is pretty much all I have left for scraps, and none of them are wide enough to fit into this space. So I end up bringing in this teeny tiny scrap, and we're going to trim that down, and then we're going to add that. And then what we'll do is we'll grab one of those longer pieces, and we're going to have to trim that down to fit into that space because now it's too big. I do get a little distracted here, so I end up cutting the wrong piece down and then having to trim the other piece kind of during the making of these cards. I was video chatting with my sister, which is something I've been trying to do at least once a week with her. I miss her, but we are doing our part in social distancing, and so video chat is next best thing to being able to actually see her. So um, it probably doesn't help while I'm doing something that I'm not 100% confident on that I'm distracted by chatting with her. So I have all my patterns down and I decide I really want something that kind of breaks them up. So I find this real thin washi tape that I had in my stash. And let me tell you, I don't know how long it's been in my stash, but it's useless because I could not, for the life of me, pull a piece off. It just was crumbling and breaking. So I end up finding these tiny little strips here. These are from a previous card kit, and these actually end up working really well. They add just that little bit of break between the patterns to kind of show off each pattern on its own. So we'll go ahead and everywhere that there's a break in the pattern, we're going to add one of these silver little tiny strips. They're a little bit harder to get on straight in a few places than I thought it would. So once that is all set, bring in that same sort of thought process with the sentiment. We're going to pop that up on some foam tape, and then I'm going to bring in some more sequins. Now kind of here I'm debating, am I going to use the sequins or am I going to use these enamel dots? And honestly, at this point, I'm not even sure if those enamel dots came in this collection or if when I made my first set of cards, I just popped them into the wrong bag. But I don't end up using them. I end up going ahead and grabbing more sequins. Because the enamel dots I have out are really bright yellow, and I just didn't think they went with the cards, which kind of leads me to believe that maybe they were supposed to be in a different one of the mini collections. So once I have all the sequins done, this is my very last card, I go ahead and put them back in the little bag, and we will take a look at all 5 cards I made using this collection from the Flavor of the Month card kit. And at the very, very end, I'll show you the couple of scraps of pattern paper I have left. I have the buttons, these mystery enamel dots, and the stamp set to add to my collection. So thank you so very much for joining me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more and you're not already, hit that subscribe button. But until next time, everyone, bye.